Hello, my name is Michaela Bauer, and I'm here presenting over Module 1. So, who am I? Again, my name is Michaela Bauer. I am 27 years old. I am a band director in Oakley, Kansas. I teach 5th through 12th grade band. I have been teaching for 5 years. I am actually originally from the eastern side of the state, so like Shawnee, Kansas area. I have my undergrad in music education from Pittsburgh State University in Pittsburgh, Kansas, and I'm currently getting my master's in building administration. So, my family, a little bit about me. So, in the upper left-hand corner, you see a picture of my husband and I and our dog Hank. We currently do not have any children. We've been married for 3 going on 4 years. Hank is, like we like to say, he's our fur child. So in the middle you can see a picture of Hank. Hank is a black Labrador retriever. In the bottom left-hand corner is a picture of my in-laws. In the top right-hand corner is my dad. And then the bottom right-hand is my mom, and then my sister and my brother-in-law. So a little bit about me. I am a massive advocate for music education, but I am also a big musician at heart. I love playing music constantly. I play every instrument possible, but these are just some of the ones I have a picture of. So in the top left-hand corner, you see me playing what's called a baritone or a euphonium. It's basically like a miniature tuba. The bottom left-hand photo is a picture of me conducting at a home football game. The middle photo of me is actually an older picture, but it's one from when I did my my performance recital for my undergrad at Pitt State. The saxophone is actually my primary instrument. It's the one that I got my specialty in. And then the top right-hand corner is a picture of me playing the flute outside, and Hank's paying attention. One thing is Hank loves music. I'll be playing the piano at home, and he'll come and he'll lay underneath my feet and listen to the piano and just like start snoozing, believe it or not. So, and then the bottom right-hand corner is a picture of me playing the trombone. So moving on to Module 1. So table of contents. Today we're going to talk about some themes, so analysis of the articles. There's some prompts, so some questions that need to be answered. My references, and then I'm going to reflect on the stuff. So to begin, school level governance. The general idea is that school principals are the ones who know what's going on in their building, but they're actually typically given very little, voice in what their funding needs are and how their budget should be spent. So the two main types of budgets are centralized budget, which is a majority of the budget is determined by an individual or a small team, like a school board of people. Then the decentralized budget is the one where the principal and other department leaders are given the chance to make financial decisions about their building. So school level governance. So schools with a highest typical, needs, they typically result in having the lowest amount of funding. So the per pupil funding, I found this improves the school by funding per individual student and their needs. So a quote that I found is increasing per pupil spending by 10% in all 12 school age years increases the probability of a higher graduation rate. So, student and adult success / well-being. So, student-centered equals more funding. So, the main term I found was SBB, or student-based budgeting. And this is where we allocate dollars to students' needs. It's based on the number of students and the objects are measurable. Implementing SBB, it's typically district-wide. It takes anywhere from 6 months to a year, and it's a full-on commitment. The whole district has to be ready to do this. The other theme I noticed was growth-oriented adult culture. So this is a culture where the adults collaborate and lead and share ownership in what they do. So data-informed decisions. Schools are not a one-size-fits-all. They're each individual, unique, and honestly, that's how their budget should be. So site-based management, this is where the site leader or the principal is, has the decision power on how their budget should be spent. They know their school, they know what materials and programs and software are needed for their building and their students' success. So some reasons for this is, there needs to be consistency, cost effectiveness, economic scale, and then the process for efficiency. So, this would put the principals in a position where, they're not only managing people, the teachers and the students, but they're managing the budget as well. Okay. So, finance, law, policies, and regulations. So the general funding breakdown is this. The state takes care of 49% of the income tax, sales, and fees. 44% comes from our locals, so property tax, contributions, mill levy, and then the last 8% comes from the federal, and this is typically gained through grants or taxes. According to the U.S. Constitution, each state is responsible for the majority of school funding. So I thought some important things to talk about are federal programs. So one that was mentioned was Title I, which is a reading initiative. English language acquisition. This is for non-English speaking households to help those learners. Reading First is about implementing rigorous school reading programs. Disabilities Education Act. So this is money for schools to use towards students with disabilities. And then lastly, Teacher Equality Grant or Teacher Quality Grants. This is grants for helping teachers in training in their PD. So some topics that I kind of found that I thought were important, but I wasn't quite sure where to put them in the presentation. One was school transparency. So this is, how the money is being used and, documenting so the stakeholders know where the money's going. Typically the community members or honestly even the principals don't know the full breakdown of the budget. That's really left up to the superintendent and the school board. So school boards, let's talk about them. They're in charge of majority of the budget and how it's spent. Typically, these are elected members who do not have training in budgets or spending. You might get lucky, but typically not. So another thing I wanted to talk about was bookkeeping and management. I thought that this was very important because, we have to know how to keep the money and everything organized, and there was just a list of programs in one of the articles, and I thought that's really important to know because you want to find a program that fits the needs for your school and budget needs. So some topics that were discussed overall was budgeting, centralized, decentralized, per pupil funding, so the students' needs, and then funding state, local, federal programs. There was a list of those. Transparency about money, how it goes in and out, and the budget breakdown. School boards, how they run the budget and they're elected, and then programs, the different accounting programs. So prompts, so the questions to be answered. So how do these themes support student achievement and success? I believe that to have the approach of a decentralized budget would put the principals in charge of how the money is spent in their building. They're the ones in the building every day. They know what they need. How are these themes data informed? We see what our students need in our building, and so as building principals, we would need to make the decision on what is best for their learning needs. So we take our data of our needs, and that's how we would use our budget. So how do these themes address equitability, school resources? Knowing what's going on in your building will help you to be able to make those fair decisions, knowing what you can give money to and what you can't give money to. So how did these themes address laws, policies, and regulations? We take the information given to us by the school boards, legislators, educational professionals to help us make the decisions what is best for our students and their needs. So the next question is identify things you have or have not seen your principal do. So I will say I feel that I am extremely fortunate because I have a great relationship with my building principal as well as my superintendent. And we've actually had, with both of those, I've had a lot of one-on-one conversations about our school budget and how it's run. And I feel like compared to most teachers, just because I'm curious about these things, I probably know more than most teachers do. And I've had a lot of conversations there. I honestly don't feel like there's much missing, and probably what's missing, it's because I don't know what to ask. So some of the things, I'm going to review some of the things we talked about. So we've talked about software and programs, so ones that each teachers use individually, programs that our school uses. My principal has told me that she gets in her building a budget of how much she can and can't spend each year, and they have to go towards things like concessions, game fees, tournaments, gates. She collects money off gates, paying for referees. There's just a lot of things that we at my school, we have to pay the upfront cost, and we hope that with gate fees and concessions we can get a little bit more return on our money to help build her budget. Some other things she likes to do, she likes to put money towards celebrations. So if we have something big happen in our district, like right now we have a program that we're helping students in, they get extra time with math or reading. If they're successful, she likes to reward them. She also does meetings with departmental staff. So for instance, I am the band teacher, so I am in charge of my band budget, as well as we have an FFA program, we have all of our different coaches in sports. She likes to talk with us once a year and talk about where our budget is, if we're going to do fundraising, some goals that we want to work towards with our money. We also have in our district, and this is not just in my building, this is in the middle school, this is in the elementary, we have what we call requisition day. And so that's the day where we fill out a school requisition of materials and supplies that we believe we are going to need to use for the following school year. They don't always get approved, and we make a requisition of 1, 2, and 3, 1 meaning like we have to have this to be able to make it through the school year. 2 would be, this would be really helpful. And 3 would be, this is like my wish list. When I make my requisitions, we talk through them, and she'll be like, this one looks pretty lengthy. Is there any way that, you could chop some off? We could find something cheaper, or, I'm sorry, this just isn't going to be possible. And lastly, material costs. So just, things around our school that, if we need to buy something quickly, that's sometimes where it comes out of. So my references. And then my reflection. So, what did I learn? I honestly did not know the breakdown of the amounts of money that are allotted directly to the schools. So, like our local and our state, federal. And then the fancy financial terms for how to run a school budget and their breakdowns. There was a whole article that talked about, financial reports and, cash flow and all these net worth and all this stuff that I honestly don't know. I probably learned one time in a business class, but it's gone in and out. But I do feel like I knew a lot. I feel like I knew a lot about our school board and how they help with the budget and, making regulations for our schools. I feel like at Oakley, we do maybe a partially decentralized budget where, my principal gets a lot, amount that she gets to run her building with, but our superintendent and school board still take care of this main stuff, and then I get a say in a little bit of what I need for my band program throughout the year. I put something in order for what, but I obviously didn't finish my thought. And then principal's responsible for very little. In my school, my principal, she's not in charge of making sure the water bill's paid, the electric bill's paid, the sewage. That's still the superintendent in the school board's role. She's more in charge of the smaller detail things. So, as a future building leader, this assignment has taught me that when I take over the responsibilities as a building principal, it is crucial that I know in whatever district I go into, what I am financially responsible. It's going to vary from district to district. I could go to the next district to the east and, that principal could have way more responsibilities than what my school does. Or they could have way less, I think one thing I would definitely work on is the transparency of what's being spent and how it's being spent. Ultimately, we want it to be student success is at the forefront of our decisions. The things we're buying needs to be for students. Knowing what the law requires of my school district is important. And then As a future building leader, some of my concerns are, the breakdown of where every dollar's going. I don't know, and there's a whole business side to managing money. Meeting with teachers, committees, advisors, coaches, being aware of their budget, and, lastly, understanding what my superintendent and school board expect from me. And that's it. Thank you.